Some would argue that this planet's rich cultures and languages give each of us our own unique identity. But looking around, from cities to nations to continents, our world is shaping up to be one big neighborhood. For one group of people, there is but only one identity and one trait, one voice and one truth, one heartbeat and one God. And uniting this ever-flourishing family is one gardener, one keeper, spreading the seeds of spirituality and watering all with God's grace. One man who walks day and night to every corner of the world to embrace every beloved soul and gather all of God's seeds. Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, Khalifatul Masih V, the successor to the promised Messiah ﷺ, and source of the same light as the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, now visiting the far east of our small world once again. Join us in this special series on the incredible journey of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih to the nations of Singapore, Australia, New Zealand and Japan, and let us bring you closer to the far side of the world. In the previous episode, we brought you Hazur's blessed tour of New Zealand, including the historic meeting with the Maori king and the completion of the Maori translation of the Holy Quran, the inauguration of the first mosque in New Zealand, and Hazur's historic address at the New Zealand Houses of Parliament.
Wadae haq jaan millat Hey Amirul Mu'mineen.
Thousands of faithful had their prayers answered. Walking amongst them, embracing them, guiding them, was Khalifatul Masih. For many weeks, the leader of the faithful has travelled across continents and met thousands of his people, changing lives and thoughts. He spread his word to all, spoken in the halls of government. Even kings have sought his blessings. Now his blessed journey was coming to a close, and the last stop was Japan. Hazur arrived in Japan on the 5th of November, where he was greeted by community members in Tokyo.
Ya Amirul Mu'mineen, marhaba khush aamadi. Ya Amirul Mu'mineen, marhaba khush aamadi. Ya Amirul Mu'mineen, ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba. Ya
The next day, Hazur departed on his journey to Nagoya. Along the way, Hazur stopped to admire one of the most majestic landscapes in East Asia, Mount Fuji. Standing above 12,000 feet, the mountain is a perfectly symmetrical volcanic cone and is a near-mythical national symbol immortalized in countless works of art. The mountain has been thought of as sacred since ancient times, and the legendary Japanese samurai would even train at the base of the mountain. In Nagoya, Hazur was received by the local Ahmadiyya Muslim community at the national headquarters, where Hazur led the Maghrib and Isha Salat.
Allah
The current headquarters is just a house, and recently the community had the blessing of purchasing a new building in Nagoya, which will serve as the new headquarters. On Thursday, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih held classes with Waqf boys and girls. In the sessions, Hazur guided and instructed the children on various matters concerning their education and future, and advised them on their conduct and practices in life to be those of a true Muslim. On Friday the 8th of November, Hazur led the Friday sermon in Nagoya, where he congratulated the community on the purchase of a new centre, which was procured through great financial sacrifice by the local Ahmadi Muslims. Speaking on this theme, Hazur said that no doubt sacrifices and actions, owing to short-term enthusiasm at times, incline one towards piety. If these are for the sake of God, then one is bestowed with divine grace. However, the objectives of those of us who have taken the bath of the promised Messiah ﷺ will be fulfilled in the real sense when we endeavour to make each act of ours consistent in seeking the pleasure of God, and will keep the objective of the Ahmadiyya Jamaat in view at all times.
हज़रत मसीह मौद अलैहिस्सलाम फरमाते हैं कि मैं अपनी जमात के अफराद को इसी तरह तरक्की की मनाज़िल तय करता देखना चाहता हूँ, जिससे वो अपने मकसद पैदाइश को हासिल करके फिर इसके मदारज में तरक्की करते चले जाएँ, उनके दर्जे बुलंद होते चले जाएँ और अल्लाह ताला के इनामात के हासिल करने वाले वो बनते चले जाएं। आपने फरमाया कि मेरी जमात में ऐसे लोग हों जो कुरान करीम और हज़रत सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की अज़मत पर बतौर गवाह ठहरें।
The arrival of a prominent religious leader brought attention from the press, and the same day, one of the largest newspapers in Japan, the Asahi Shimbun, interviewed Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. In the interview, Hazur spoke of the international Ahmadiyya Muslim community, his duties as the leader of tens of millions of followers, and the establishment of the Ahmadiyya city in Pakistan called Rabwa.
ラブワという町はこう例えばその何もなかったところにアハマディアの人たちが作り上げた町なんですかラブワは
हाँ बिल्कुल बैरन जगह थी और हुकूमत ने भी उसको छोड़ा हुआ था और वहाँ पानी भी नहीं निकलता था। जब पार्टीशन हुई है, इंडो पाकिस्तान बना है, तो उस वक्त जब जमात अहमदिया को अपना मरकज़ कायम करने के लिए जगह की तलाश थी, फिर हज़रत खलीफत मसीह सानी ने मुख्तलिफ़ जगहों तलाश करवाई और उसमें से ये जगह उनको पसंद आई, लेकिन वहाँ पानी का मसला था, तो वो भी अल्लाह ताला ने अब फिर रहे थे तो अल्लाह ताला ने एक जगह इशारा फरमाया, इल्हामन फरमाया कि इस जगह पानी है, और फिर वहाँ पहले उससे पहले बोर होल बहुत सारे किए गए थे, पानी नहीं निकलता था। जब उस ख़ास जगह पे बोर किया गया तो वहाँ अल्लाह के फजल से मीठा पानी निकल आया और फिर रबा की बाती वहाँ फैलनी शुरू हुई कि पार्टीशन के बाद मुसलमान की हैसियत से हम पाकिस्तान गए। पाकिस्तान के बनाने में, रबा के बनाने में अहमदियों का खून शामिल है और एक मोहब्बत है हमें उस मिट्टी से। ज़ाहिर है अगर निकले हैं तो मजबूरी से निकले हैं और इंशाअल्लाह ताला जब मौका मिलेगा तो वापस जाएंगे भी, और जो वापस अहमदी वहाँ रहते हैं वो इसलिए रहते हैं कि उनको उस मिट्टी से मोहब्बत है। अगर कोई मजबूरी नहीं है ऐसी कि ज़रूर बाहर निकलना है तो बाहर कुर्बानी करते हैं और रहते हैं।
In the evening, Hazur visited the newly purchased Ahmadiyya Center in Nagoya and led the Maghrib and Isha prayers. There are plans to convert the building to a mosque in the future, which will have the capacity for up to 800 worshippers. Upon completion, it will inshallah be Japan's largest mosque. Hazur inspected various areas and infrastructures of the building and gave guidance to the Executive Council members. A small dinner was held afterwards, which was also attended by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. The next day, a reception was held in Hazur's honor in Nagoya, which was attended by over 150 influential dignitaries and guests, which included many members of parliament, faith leaders, lawyers, professors, and city mayors. A few of the guests spoke at the event.
あの日以来、皆様には大変に
At the time of the tsunami, you helped us a lot, and so firstly, I would like to thank you all. It had been 5 days since the tsunami on the 16th of March, when the president of the Japanese branch of the Ahmadiyya community, Mr. Anis Ahmed Nadim and Ayaz Najbullah, came to a shelter in an elementary school. After the disaster, within 14 minutes until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, these people, the Ahmadiyya community in Japan, took the immediate initiative to help in order to help these affected areas. These volunteers had indeed demonstrated their commitment through their actions. Each day we would observe and think to ourselves how committed and devoted these volunteers actually were. Their manner was not forceful or overbearing. Instead, they dealt with us in a friendly manner with much love. The manner in which they conducted themselves, we could tell, was anything but ordinary.
In 1951, when the Treaty of San Francisco was signed, Sir Zafrullah Khan Sahib delivered a speech. At the time, he was the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, a very devout member of the Ahmadiyya community. He said, "We must establish peace in Japan with equality and justice, not with hatred and vengeance." In this manner, he safeguarded the Japanese stance. We must always keep in mind the spirit of Mr. Khan's speech. As far as the wider international relations are concerned, a part of which is refugee recognition, there is a need to honestly act upon this speech. You just heard the report of the beautiful services rendered by Humanity First following the first tsunami. As a Japanese, I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude and thankfulness.
The need of the time is for us to step forward with a spirit of reconciliation, because if we do not become true ambassadors of peace, a great calamity could easily befall the world. Today, even a number of smaller nations have come to possess nuclear weapons, and it is quite possible that they could eventually end up in the hands of extremists who do not care or realize what devastation can be caused by such weapons. As I said, I am trying to make the world aware of the grave risks that exist, and so I request all of you to also try your utmost to promote peace in the world. You should make all parties aware that rather than treading a path of cruelty and severity, and rather than looking at each other through a lens of hatred, we should all look at one another through a lens of love and peace.
我々は日本人としてイスラム教というのはいろんな情報が入ってますね。でも今日
Today, when I got to know more about this unique community and the work you do for humanity, I came to the conclusion that this is indeed a very revered religion. I felt that this is that mighty leadership for the new era.
His Holiness said that in order to spread peace, we should examine our state of affairs first. This point most definitely struck the hearts of all the listeners. Today, when I heard His Holiness speak, regardless of the difference in speech, I got this impression that he is a very tender-hearted and enthusiastic person, and his knowledge encompasses various languages, cultures, and history. This is what I noticed.
His message is almost always of peace. But this time, when various incidents of the Holy Prophet were narrated, I thought that you Ahmadis must belong to the same category of people who did Hijrat. Ahmadis span all over the world and help different people, and they meet non-Muslims like us, sharing the message of peace. I was very surprised at first when I saw you because of your unity. I was amazed at this because this cannot be found in other Muslims.
His Holiness's speech was amazing, and it was brimming with faith and conviction. If this speech was not delivered with this context, it would not have struck the hearts.
On the 11th of November, Hazur made his journey to Tokyo from Nagoya on a Japanese bullet train. The Shinkansen bullet train network is the busiest in the world and one of the most efficient. These trains travel at speeds of up to 320 kilometers per hour. The journey to Tokyo, which would have taken 4 hours, only took 1 hour. The same evening, a major Q&A session was held with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih in Tokyo, attended by ministers, members of parliament, corporate leaders, and members of press. This was a unique opportunity for the Japanese people to discover the real truth about Islam firsthand from Hazrat Khalifatul Masih directly.
兄さん、後の方の質問ですが、あなたがしてほしいことを他人にもしなさいという、道徳のような黄金律ですね。これはクルアンではどのように表現されているか、そういう教えがあるのかどうかということを。
इस्लाम का भी यही सुनहरी असूल है कि जो अपने लिए पसंद करते हो वो तुम उसमें, बल्कि मसीह मौद अलैहिस्सलाम ने इस हद तक लिखा है कि दूसरे का दर्द तुम उस तरह ही महसूस करो जिस तरह अपना दर्द महसूस करते हो, तभी तुम इंसानियत की सही खिदमत कर सकते हो। और इस्लाम के इसी असूल के तहत कि जो तुम अपने लिए पसंद करते हो दूसरे के लिए पसंद करो, हम तबलीग का काम करते हैं ताकि वो चीज़ जिसको हम सही समझते हैं और उस पर अमल करते हैं और समझते हैं कि इससे खुदा ताला का कुर्ब हासिल होता है, वो दूसरों को मिले। यही नसीहत है जिसके ज़ेर असर हमारी तबलीग भी है कि जो चीज़ हम अपने लिए पसंद करें वो दूसरे के लिए भी करें। और इन्हीं सब बातों का खुलासा है कि जो हमारा ये नारा है कि मोहब्बत सबके लिए और नफ़रत किसी से नहीं।
いやもう横でね話を聞いてましたけど、最高指導者がですねその表情を変えずにですね、もう次から次へさらさらともう縦板に水を流すごとくもう情報がザーッと出ていくわけですよね。さすがだなと思いましたね。その喋ることが止まることなくね、滑らかにさーっとその表情も変えず優しくね、もうやっぱりすごいなと思いましたね。
またぜひこういう機会をまたあればぜひ参加していただきたいですね。
そうですね。もう本当にね、人間のパワーというかオーラというか包容力というかね、それを本当に横でつくづく感じましたね。ぜひ世界平和のために頑張っていただきたいですね。
ありがとうございます。
はい。
はい。一番最後にですね、政教分離の話がありましたけれども、本当にやはりそういうなんていうのかな、こう民主主義とかそういうやっぱりこう、政治と宗教はこう分けて考えて、そしてやはりその宗教活動の自由というものを重んじる宗教であるということが初めて分かりました。今日の最高指導者の方の話を聞いて、よく分かるようになりました。はい。モハマド・サブケリエ、ナフラト・キシ・セナヒン。
On his last day in Japan, Hazur made a brief visit to Asakusa Nakamise, the Sensoji temple in the heart of Tokyo, and the surrounding traditional shops that have attracted shoppers for centuries. But as it turns out, the main attraction that day was not any ancient building, but the blessed personage of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. People swarmed Hazur every few steps and shook his hand, many requesting to have a picture taken with Hazur. This was reflective of Hazur's entire tour of the Far East. Wherever he went, Hazur attracted the faithful and the rest of the world.
तख्त मेहदी के वारिस इमाम ज़मा सैयदी मुशफ़िक़ी मुर्शिदी मेहरबा हमने बहरे खुदा तेरी बैत जो की तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए बरक रूहानियत की अजब रो चली शब गजीदों को फिर रोशनी मिल गई किरमजी शब हुई दिन हरे हो गए किरमजी शब हुई दिन हरे हो गए सैयदी मुशफ़िक़ी मुर्शिदी मेहरबा तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए तेरी मुस्कान की फुहार दिल पर गिरी,
गुलशने जाम बादे सबा चल पड़ी,
प्यार में तेरे मन बावरे हो गए, प्यार में तेरे मन बावरे हो गए, प्यार में तेरे मन बावरे हो गए। सैयदी मुशफ़िक़ी मुर्शिदी मेहरबा, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए।
जिंदगी तेरे दम से बदलने लगी,
इश्क ताजा हुआ जान संभलने लगी,
जिंदगी तेरे दम से बदलने लगी,
इश्क ताजा हुआ जान संभलने लगी। खोटे सिक्के थे लेकिन खरे हो गए, खोटे सिक्के थे लेकिन खरे हो गए। सैयदी मुशफ़िक़ी मुर्शिदी मेहरबा, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए। लफ्ज सब है पुराने कहानी नई,
आँख के पानियों की रवानी नई,
रूह के रंग ही दूसरे हो गए, रूह के रंग ही दूसरे हो गए। सैयदी मुशफ़िक़ी मुर्शिदी मेहरबा, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए। ऐ मसीहा नफस, ऐ महे दिल बरा, ऐ मसीहा नफस, ऐ महे दिल बरा, तख्त मेहदी के वारिस इमाम ज़मा, तख्त मेहदी के वारिस इमाम ज़मा। सैयदी मुशफ़िक़ी मुर्शिदी मेहरबा, हमने बहरे खुदा तेरी बैत जो की, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए, तू हमारा हुआ हम तेरे हो गए।